Good evening. Thank you again. This is such a wonderful night. This is a very, very important question, right? It's 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 an intriguing question, right? Who is Jesus Christ? That's our talk for tonight. Here he is, one of my favorite um, images of him as the Good Shepherd. Who is Jesus Christ? Right? Very, very important question. Why is it an important question? It's because, all over the world, doesn't matter what nationality you are, what language you speak, love song after love song, devotion after devotion song, offering song after offering song have been written about this Jesus Christ. All over the world, even up to today, people are giving up their lives, dying, right? For this Jesus Christ who lived and died 2,000 plus years ago, right? All over the world, people are still dying for him. People are following him. I have seen people, especially in this community, in South OC, in this chapter, I've seen people that have gone through worse things than I, have gone through life-threatening illnesses, and have gone through it with such peace, love, hope, and joy in their eyes and in their hearts and in their demeanor. And I'm comparing that to myself having so much stress from just one day at work. Life-threatening disease. Me just at work, and they have so much more life, so much more peace, so much more hope. And they attest that it is because of their relationship to this Jesus Christ. So it's really an intriguing question. Who is Christ? This is a very, very important question, especially if we go to the Gospel of Mark. In the middle of Mark, right, is this wonderful story. It's a story of Peter, and it's a story of Jesus Christ walking with Peter and the rest of the disciples to this area called Caesarea Philippi. They're going there. Jesus Christ he looks at his disciples and he says, "Hey, who do people say that I am?" And they say, some people say you're Elijah, some people say you're John the Baptist, your cousin, and some people say you're one of the prophets. And then Jesus Christ posed this very, very important question. He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Right? And that is the most important question, brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter who I say Jesus Christ is. It doesn't matter who Alvin says Jesus Christ is. It doesn't matter who haters say Jesus Christ is. It matters who you say he is to you. That is the most important question from Jesus Christ tonight. Who do you say he is? Who is Jesus Christ? It really matters who you say he is to you. Very important. But what do we know of Christ? Let's go through that. What do we know of Christ? Well, number one, we know that he was a very unique figure in all of history. Three ways he was unique. Three ways. Number one, his coming was pre-announced. Right? I mean, yes, I have 3 kids and I pre-announced them, right? 8 months before, 1 month after we got pregnant, I found out we were pregnant, we announced, and 8 months later. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about that pre-announcement. We're talking about a pre-announcement from tens of thousands of years before his birth. Right? And there is this, the name escapes me right now, but there is this scientist, I think his name starts with an S, you can Google it, and he actually calculated that I think it's 100 trillion. 1 to 100 trillion is the probability that someone will be born that will meet all of the pre-announcements in the Old Testament. 1 in 100 trillion. And they calculated that maybe only about 88 billion have walked this earth. Improbable. Improbable for someone to just have been coincidentally born, meeting all of the pre-announcements in the Old Testament. He was unique. He was pre-announced way, way before 8 months. Way, way before tens of thousands of years before his birth. Right? And when he came with such force that he split history into 2. Right? The year right now is 2020 AD. Anno Domini. The year of our Lord. Right? And that comes 20 years after he came. Before that, we call it BC, before Christ. His coming split history into 2. We mark our time according to the time that he walked this earth. What a unique figure, right? What a unique historical figure. What about the third? There is a third, right? And he is the only person in history to come to suffer and die. He came not to live, but to die. Very unique, right? He's sitting there looking all throughout creation with God the Father and God the Holy Spirit. And God the Father says, oh, we created them and they're very good. But then they left us, right? And I feel really, really sad for them because they will hurt because they're away from us, right? Here's the plan. I'm going to send you, my son, to go, right? To die so that they might be able to be brought back to us. And he said, sure. He said, I will do it, right? He came to die. How many people come to live, right? Everybody else. Only one person came to really die. That's his purpose for life, is to die. He was pre-announced. He split history into two. He came into the world to suffer and die. Who is this Jesus Christ? We know that he's a very unique person in history. You know, I keep saying that, right? That he is this unique person in history. Is that true? It is 100% true. If you talk to a historian that is worth his weight, right? In salt even, right? He will have to admit that there was a Jesus that walked this earth 2,000 plus years ago. The Romans have an archive, right? And it's thick books upon books upon books upon books upon. They just wrote down their entire history, right? And historians say that in all of that Roman history, right, in all of that archive, there's about 4 lines, 4 mere lines that write about this Jesus that they crucified, right? There really was a man that walked this earth. Jesus Christ was really a historical figure. 100%. If you talk to a historian that is worth his weight in even just salt, a historian that knows his stuff, his or her stuff, they will have to agree, they will have to admit that there is a Jesus that walked this earth. And that Jesus, according to the Roman archives, was crucified on a cross, right? Where? In Jerusalem, in a Roman outskirt, a Roman outpost, basically, right? That's truth. That's truth. There is nothing false about that. That is historical truth. Okay, what else do we know about this Christ? You know, I know this is a virtual, and this is the first time I'm giving this talk virtually, so I don't know if I can really hold people's attention. So I wanted to just, if you remember just this, I'm just gonna go directly to my conclusion, give you a sneak peek of the conclusion. Just so if I lose you, at least you've already got into the conclusion, right? This is the trilemma. Actually, here they added a fourth one where Jesus is a legend. This is the trilemma where we figure out, is he Lord? Is he liar? Is he lunatic? And basically, later in the conclusion, we will talk about the fact that Jesus claims outwardly that he is God. He makes a claim. I make a claim. I am 25 years old. Randy Muyargas is 25 years old. Now, that claim is either true or false. If that is false, there are 2 possibilities. Either I know it's false, makes me a liar, or I don't know it's false, it makes me delusional, it makes me a lunatic. There are only 3 possibilities. Once you make a claim like that, there are only 3 possibilities. Jesus Christ made a claim. He claimed that he was God, that he is God. It's either he knew it was false, which makes Jesus a liar. It's either he did not know it was false, which makes him crazy. Or, if he was not a liar, if he was not a lunatic, then there's only one more possibility, and that is that it was true and that Jesus is Lord. All right, let's just break that down a little bit. Let's just break that down a little bit. What are the details of his life? What do we know, right? Well, number one, we know that he was born in Nazareth, right? That's the truth. We know that he was an itinerant preacher, or he preached from location to location. He moved from location to location to preach for about 3 years, right? He has never been more than 94 miles outside of his hometown, where he was born in his hometown. 94 miles, right? That is pre-COVID. That was a normal commute for some of us here in Southern California. A day, right, was at least 94 miles of driving. Jesus Christ was never more than 94 miles away from his hometown, right? He was never more in a town which had more than 50,000 people in it. All just really small towns compared to today's standards. He had no army, right? He wasn't like, what's his name, Alexander the Great. He had no army. He did not have a school like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle. His father was a mere carpenter. It was not a revered profession. It was just a, just a so-so profession. He was a mere carpenter, right? His short ministry, 3 years, attracted only a modest number of disciples, and those disciples were just uneducated fishermen and their relatives mostly, right? So really, modest number and type of disciples was what he attracted. Not really that noteworthy, right? In the 3 years that he preached, we know that he experienced anger, grief, love, compassion, sadness. It's all in the scriptures. It's all written in the Gospels. How he was angered at one time, how he had grief, love, compassion, sadness, and how he expressed all of those emotions as well. Very, very human. Very, very human, right? He was also a magnetic leader. In those 3 years, we find out that, I'm probably losing some of you. Some of you are already bored out of your minds with me. And I pretty much have a captive audience. I have a mic directly into your living room. Jesus sat in the middle of an open field talking to 5,000 people, unplugged, unmiked, and the people that heard him talk were so moved that they were able to verbatim, word for word, transfer what he said from one generation to another generation, until it was written down verbatim, and until today where we can read them in the Bible. That's how magnetic a speaker he was. That's how a magnetic leader he was. He came to strangers and he said, "Come, follow me. I will make you fishers of men." And they left their nets immediately and followed him. What a magnetic leader. Amazing, right? But, in the end, he was killed after 3 years, nailed to a cross in Jerusalem for stirring up the people. Where is Jerusalem and what is Jerusalem? Jerusalem was a nothing occupancy of the Roman Empire. It was an outpost, right? If the Roman Empire lost Jerusalem, so what? They wouldn't have cared, right? It was really at the outskirts. It was not central to the Roman civilization, which at that point in time was the civilization to be in. That was the world, was the Roman civilization, right? And Jerusalem was a nothing part of that civilization. They didn't care about Jerusalem. That's where Jesus died after 3 years, right? Basically, knowing all of that he was just a carpenter, he didn't have much followers, he was never far away from his house. His followers were uneducated, and the relatives of those uneducated fishermen, right? Knowing all of that, he should simply have faded into complete oblivion. We should have forgotten about him 2-3 generations after he died. Instead, today, he is surely the most famous, the most honored, the best loved person who ever walked this earth. We sing love song after love song after love song about him. The song that Clark and Lara taught us tonight was written by a member of Couples for Christ, right? A member of Couples for Christ in another country, but he was the one that wrote this. And he wrote this for this Jesus Christ that died 2,000 years ago, that should have already been forgotten about, 100 AD, right? 2 or 3 generations hence. Okay? Who here can name their great-great-great-grandfather by name? Not many people. And that's related to you. I can't name my great-great-great-grandfather 3 or 4 generations up, and they're related to me, right? And yet here we are talking about Jesus Christ. There really must be something about him. What was it? What really was it, right? What was it?